Full moon periods can be so intense, and you've probably been there before where you start to bleed on a full moon, your boobs are really tender, you're bloated, you're feeling really emotional, and just everything is more intense than usual. And there is a reason for that. And today I'm going to share with you what's going on when you are experiencing those full moon periods. And stick around to the end because I'm going to give you some solutions and tools and practices that you can work with in order to help ease the experience of a full moon period. Full moons are really intense and powerful times. They are about 14 days after a new moon. It's when the moon is the brightest in the sky. It's associated with illumination, with clarity, with insight, and also things like sensuality and manifestation. The full moon is associated with the ovulatory phase of the menstrual cycle and the season of summer. So when you think about the ovulatory phase, this is when our sensuality is heightened, when we're more flirtatious, more outgoing, and more engaging. And this is very much connected to that full moon energy. That full moon energy brings in that just quality of sensuality, of kind of wanting to be more outward. Things are more illuminated, there's more clarity. So all of those things are going to be connected to the full moon. So what's going on with our hormones during the full moon? Well, hormonally, there are going to be some shifts around the full moon. Naturally, there's going to be more light in the sky at night. And in times before our modern times, when we have screens and porch lights and all kinds of things that are going to throw off our circadian rhythms, a full moon at night meant that our eyes were exposed to more light. And more light at night means less melatonin. So when our body is producing less melatonin, there's an increase in serotonin, but then also there's a decrease in progesterone. And it's important to kind of open this up a little bit more. So what is actually happening when our body is producing less melatonin? Well, that means we are going to be having probably more sleep disturbances. It's not going to be as easy for us to stay asleep at night, which is going to contribute, of course, the next day to a little bit of irritability. And when we have more serotonin in our body, that is actually food and fuel for parasites. And if you've never done a parasite cleanse, then there's a possibility that you could be dealing with parasites and more parasitic activity under a full moon. And then we come to progesterone. So progesterone is a really important hormone for having periods that it can be seen as like healthy and easeful. So what that means is periods that are regular, periods that come at least 21 days or more, 21 days to 35 days long, and periods that are not super heavy, periods where you're not having spotting beforehand, breast tenderness, also things like premenstrual anxiety, depression, and just irritability are connected to low progesterone. Now, if you're like, Raven, I experience those things with every period, not just the ones that are on the full moon. Well, then you probably want to take into consideration something like low progesterone, and that could be something that you're dealing with in your periods. So obviously, hormones are really important. They are going to determine how we sleep, how we feel, how we think, and they're going to determine how our periods are expressed and how we experience our periods. So full moons obviously are going to have a huge impact on our period from the more physical hormonal standpoint. How does all of this connect to the experience of our periods on the full moon? Well, there's a lot that's happening. For one, when we are under a full moon, we're just naturally more aware of our emotions. And when we're talking about menstruation, it's also a time of heightened emotions. It's natural for us to feel more and to have emotions that are coming to the surface because as we're bleeding, not only are we shedding blood, but we're also releasing emotions. And so that's important to keep in mind. So we have this double whammy of the full moon kind of bringing up old emotions, bringing up old things to illuminate them so that we can either make changes or release them. But then we also have this menstruation phase of the cycle where a lot of emotions could be coming to the surface, and so that can be really intense. During menstruation, it's also a time when we are naturally connected to celestial bodies. We're really intensely connected to nature. We're connected to the sun, the moon, and all of the planets, really, because we're not just these physical beings. We are influenced by the sun and the moon, and this can be seen, obviously, when we're talking about the full moon and how it impacts our hormones. So when we are bleeding and menstruating, we have this openness that's happening. It's kind of like we have this open channel to connect with a lot of energies around us, and that can be pretty intense. So we have this combination of all these old things coming to the surface, of this deep connection to nature and to the world around us, and maybe less sleep because of decreased melatonin and things like lowered progesterone possibly, and possibly even dealing with things like parasites for people who have never done a parasite cleanse. These are important things to keep in mind when we're talking about full moon periods. And periods are really times when we need to be kind of like away from the world, and it really helps us to be away from our day-to-day responsibilities, because that gives us an opportunity to go into this really powerful time of releasing. And when we don't have that space, it can make our periods that much more intense, compounded on top of having that full moon period. If you are enjoying this video so far, please do subscribe to my channel. It really helps to support the work that I'm doing and me creating more and more videos and being able to reach more people. Thank you so much for your support. So what can you do about this? How do you manage full moon periods? Well, for one, you can start taking melatonin about 2 days before your period is supposed to start. This will help you with getting more sleep and being able to sleep more soundly. And of course, more sleep means less irritability and also more healing, because our period and menstruation is also associated with a time in our cycle when we are more connected to healing. Because if you think about it, when we're releasing and shedding blood and we're releasing and shedding emotions, that releasing and shedding of emotions, that is making space for new things, for healing, for releasing stagnation. And stagnation is really one of the roots of a lot of different menstrual imbalances, whether it's cysts or fibroids or endometriosis. All of these things are connected to stagnation in the physical sense of actual physical blood being congealed and stagnated in the womb space, but also in the energetic and emotional sense of things, emotions that we've been holding on to or energies that we've been holding on to that need to be released. Having space and time to experience your menstruation phase is really important for being able to manage full moon periods as well. You already know it could be more intense, so at least give yourself some time and space in your calendar, free up as much as you can so that you can have that time for yourself to do that releasing. And then I also suggest creating a sacred space. And what that means is clearing your energy in your home. So maybe burning some incense, maybe just cleaning up and getting rid of clutter and things that could just be energetically taking up space for you. Clear those things out before you go into menstruation, and it gives you more space to open up yourself both energetically and emotionally when there's less clutter around us. So the next tip is to incorporate herbs like dandelion, parsley, or ginger. These are herbs that help you to reduce water retention, they help to reduce breast tenderness and swelling, and they help us to move energy. So dandelion is an herb that's supportive to the liver, and whenever we're supporting the liver, we're supporting healthy detoxification. Ginger is also an herb that helps to get things moving, and parsley is an herb that I absolutely love if you have really intense or difficult periods to help calm down that energy. And these herbs can be incorporated into teas, or you can just incorporate them into your food as well. And then the final tip is to create a ceremony. And to do this, basically you're going to clear your space. So before your period starts, burn some incense, maybe take a spiritual bath to clear your own energy field. You can do this with rosemary, rose, rue, and make that spiritual bath the night before your period starts and do that then. And then after your spiritual bath, you can also think about incorporating things like a white candle, maybe burning some incense during your period, maybe having some kind of music that's really soothing, and then also setting some intentions. So you can write your intentions down before your period starts to have illumination and clarity on what it is that you're releasing and how you can further support yourself in doing that releasing. And setting those intentions, burning that candle, doing the clearing practice, this really helps to create a ceremony around your bleeding time, which is a really powerful time in itself. And if you're bleeding on the full moon, it's going to be even more intense because you have those other factors of the hormonal shifts and changes, but also the energetic shifts and changes, and the moon supporting you in illuminating what it is that you could have been holding on to for years or months or even for many generations. So that's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. And if you have had full moon periods that have been really intense and you have any tips that you would like to share with me and our community here, then please do share your tips in the comments below. If you like this video, please do subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Bye.